Today on Public Eye News, we are finally back after Northern Michigan University closed for 2 days. We'll have the details on the snow accumulated around the UP and what could happen when it melts later this spring.
Ryan Gooch will update us on our forecast this week, and Caleb Rydell has the results from the most recent NMU women's lacrosse game. Hi, I'm Anthony Cilia.
And I'm Jillian Wormliger. Welcome to Public Eye News. Snow, and more snow is filling the streets and parking lots. The National Weather Service, who has been covering the spring-winter storm for days now, says although April snow is not uncommon, this storm is different. But even though feet of snow fill backyards, the National Weather Service is turning their attention to potential flooding due to the increase in temperature very soon. As of 10:37 a.m. today, the Mackinac Bridge is back open to all traffic. A picture taken in Marinette, Menominee went viral regarding the snowstorm. The picture was taken yesterday and shows a trench that had to be dug through a 10-foot snow drift to allow entrance. The YMCA has been contacted by news agencies across the country and even from overseas. And UP Health System and Marquette nurses plan to take another strike authorization vote this Friday and Saturday from 7:30 a.m. until 9 p.m. both days. UPHS Marquette nurses held a 48-hour strike October 5th through the 7th in 2017, and they authorized that strike in a vote on August 29th. Nurses say their next contract needs to have staffing levels necessary for patient safety. UPHS Marquette administration has said the new contract needs to meet the needs of the hospital, nurses, and the community.
There has been an ongoing effort to bring a public shooting range to the UP. The effort continued last night during a meeting in Sands Township where the Planning Commission held a public forum to decide whether or not land should be set aside and rezoned as a DNR shooting range. Both DNR and Sands Township residents weighed in on the topic, and the hope is that the public range will reduce illegal ranges in the area and will provide a much safer alternative. Gun range specialists have narrowed down ideal location options based on noise issues, though residents are still speculating it. The DNR has allocated $900,000 for the project, and the Sands County Planning Commission was scheduled to make a decision tonight, but has been postponed until May 1st. And a 25-year-old man from Iron Mountain was arrested and charged for assault and home invasion. He entered a plea deal with the Dickinson County Circuit Court and pleaded no contest to reduce charges of home invasion, third degree, and attempted assault with intent to do great bodily harm less than murder. Joseph Pow allegedly beat another man until he fell into the ground and proceeded to kick him, resulting in the need for medical attention. He pleaded not guilty to the charges, and a jury trial was set for next week, and now a sentencing date has been set for June 5th.
Anglers heading out for the trout season opener at the end of the month will have portions of nearly 40 Upper Peninsula trout streams. During the 2016-17 fishing season, there were 8 UP research area streams where a 10 trout bag limit was allowed. 5 of those streams were removed from the final listing proposal. According to Jim Dexter, the Michigan Department of Natural Resources Fisheries Division Chief, quote, staff work to select specific stream segments or sub-watersheds to be considered for the 10 brook trout possession limit, end quote. And the opening day of the inland trout season on Type 1 streams, which include the increased bag limit, will be Saturday, April 28th. And this afternoon, a murder-suicide took place at a Jo-Ann Fabrics in Lansing Township. According to authorities, 30-year-old Timothy Olin rented a handgun from a local indoor gun range and used it to kill his ex-girlfriend, 25-year-old Rachel Duncan. Just a few days before the shooting, Duncan had taken a personal protection order out on Olin. After Olin was served the personal protection order, police in Eaton County confiscated his firearms, but that didn't stop him from getting his hands on one. Earlier this month, Olin tried to buy a handgun from a second-hand store, but he was denied after business owners learned he had a personal protection order in place. And after the break, we'll be back with your national and international news. Stay tuned.
Most people sense a change in the weather.
Megastorms, droughts, fires.
It's not your imagination. The weather's out of tune.
A global investigation.
The technology is game-changing.
And the stakes could not be higher.
It's a planetary crisis, but we're clever enough to think our way out of this.
Decoding the Weather Machine on Nova.
Tonight at 8 after PBS NewsHour.
And welcome back. Andrea Costin, Bill Cosby's chief accuser, shared a vivid story of the night that the man she used to consider a friend and a mentor took advantage of her. She testified on Friday that she was visiting Cosby in a Philadelphia mansion back in 2004 when he slipped her 3 blue pills he claimed to be herbal supplements that would relieve stress. The pills instead knocked Constant out, and when she awoke, Cosby was on top of her. Constant claimed that she received a $3.4 million settlement from Cosby back in 2006 and claims that she has nothing to gain from this financially and only wants to see the comedian behind bars. And Starbucks will close its stores and corporate offices on May 29th for company-wide racial bias training. The announcement comes in response to public protests and calls to boycott Starbucks. Protesters are upset about the arrest of 2 black men in a Philadelphia store last week. CBS spoke with Starbucks Executive Chairman Howard Schultz about the incident. Lou Young has the story from New York.
I'm embarrassed, ashamed. I think what occurred was reprehensible at every single level.
The founder of America's ubiquitous coffee house and meeting place is deeply remorseful about last week's arrests in Philadelphia of 2 black men waiting for a business associate put in cuffs because they hadn't purchased coffee before sitting down. Appearing on CBS this morning, Starbucks founder Howard Schultz says he met with the manager who made that call. She's no longer with the company, but he says is remorseful about how things turned out. Schultz told CBS's Gayle King he expects the woman will meet with the men.
I think there's a unique opportunity for her and the 2 gentlemen to sit down and potentially have some kind of reconciliation.
Starbucks plans to close 8,000 of its locations on May 29th for company-wide racial bias training, a move that could cost millions in operating losses.
I think it might just be a PR move because Starbucks is a big company.
I think it's a really good idea.
You believe him?
I do believe him.
This is not going to be a one-day event where we're going to do something and leave. We're going to stay with this. It's going to be significant. It's going to endure, and we're going to transform the way we do business.
Lost in the discussion so far is the restrained way the 2 handcuffed men behaved. Schultz noted they were passive in the face of such public unfairness. This, he told Gayle King, could have turned to something much, much worse. Lou Young, CBS News, New York.
An American Airlines plane on its way to Las Vegas made a safe emergency landing this morning at DFW Airport. Flight 2289 had taken off from DFW when an indicator light came on showing possible mechanical problems, according to FAA and American. The FAA says the indicator light involved a possible problem with the flaps of the plane. Emergency vehicles met the plane when it landed around 7:45 and escorted it to the gate. Mechanics were called in to look at the problem, and no one ended up getting hurt in the incident. And former First Lady Barbara Bush is being remembered as a fiercely loyal wife and mother and is leading a public servant in her own right. Both the wife and mother of former presidents, Mrs. Bush, died at her home Houston last night. Weijia Zhang is there.
Flags are at half-staff over the White House, a silent salute to Barbara Bush. The 92-year-old former First Lady died Tuesday evening in Houston, surrounded by family and friends. She had been battling congestive heart failure and was receiving only comfort care in her final days. A motorcade escorted her body as she left her home for the last time. A spokesman said her husband, former President George H.W. Bush, is brokenhearted, but lifted up by his large and supportive family and is determined to be there for them. Their love story lasted more than 70 years.
I fell in love with him practically at first sight. Probably went home and told my mother about him.
A private viewing will take place today and tomorrow. The funeral on Saturday is by invitation only at the Bush family's church.
The entire country, especially the city of Houston, Texas, is going to be grieving for a long time because she was such a presence.
Neighbor Lindy Nyhouse was friends with Mrs. Bush for decades.
She had a wonderful sense of humor. She was such a lady, just the ultimate lady, and she just was so kind and compassionate. I always think if the world could be full of Barbara Bushes, the world would be a much better place.
Former President George W. Bush says he's a lucky man that Barbara Bush was his mother. First Lady Melania Trump plans to pay her respects at the funeral. The White House has not said yet whether President Trump will attend. Weijia Zhang, CBS News, Houston.
And don't touch that dial. We'll be right back with your weather and sports. Stay tuned.
Michigan's Upper Peninsula is blessed with world-class natural resources, providing fantastic recreation opportunities for everyone to enjoy. I'm John Pepin, Deputy Public Information Officer for the Michigan Department of Natural Resources. Find out more about what you'd like to know when our Ask the DNR panelists take your call-in questions live on WNMU TV.
Tune in for Ask the DNR Thursday at 8 on Public TV 13.
And welcome back. I'm Ryan Gooch. I'm going to be taking you through your weather for today. As you can see behind me, it is pretty sunny out there, just helping everyone recover from the snow from the weekend. And looking at your current conditions, it is partly cloudy with a temperature of 34 degrees with winds coming out of the north at 21 miles an hour and a barometric pressure of 21.02 and rising. And looking into tonight, it's going to be clear with a low of 29 degrees with winds coming out of the north at 16 miles an hour. And tomorrow, it's going to be partly cloudy with a high of 41 with winds coming out of the north-northwest at 17 miles an hour. And looking across the UP in Sault Ste. Marie, it's going to be 39 degrees and cloudy. Manistee, 38 degrees and partly cloudy. Escanaba, 39 and partly cloudy. And Menominee, 35 and cloudy. And looking across the UP, Iron Mountain, it's going to be 38 and partly cloudy. Ironwood, it's going to be 36 and cloudy. Houghton, 38 and partly cloudy. And back in Marquette, it's 34 and partly cloudy. Now looking ahead. On Friday, we're going to have a high of 47 degrees and a low of 31 and sunny. Saturday, a high of 50 with a low of 34 and partly cloudy. And Sunday, a high of 55 with a low of 37 and sunny. Now, Caleb, temperatures are going to be heating up this weekend, and I hear the lacrosse team was hot also.
Oh, yes. Getting on that win finally. We needed it, Ryan. Friday the 13th was no nightmare for Northern Michigan University's women's lacrosse team as they secured their first win in the Great Lakes Intercollegiate Athletic Conference program's history. It was a catfight on Hawaiian night at the Dome Friday when the NMU Wildcats played the Davenport Panthers and came out on top. 5 players scored goals for the second-year program, led by a freshman who finished with 6 goals and an assist. This might signify a change in the lacrosse team's poor record this season, hopefully saying goodbye to the losses and aloha to the winning record. The living legend Bruno Sammartini, considered one of the greatest icons in the history of professional wrestling, has died today at the age of 82. The 2-time WWF champion currently holds the record for the longest reigning world heavyweight champion in the history of the WWE. His first reign lasted 2,803 days. His second reign lasted 1,237 days. Sammartini was the most transcendental figure the business had ever seen, and he quickly became one of professional wrestling's most accomplished performers. History in the NHL last night as the Vegas Golden Knights became the first franchise in NHL history to sweep a postseason series in its inaugural season when it defeated the Los Angeles Kings 1-0. The Tuesday night game had a single goal in the second period that would end up determining the whole game and giving this year's new Knights their place in history. The Golden Knights will face the winner of the San Jose Sharks Anaheim Ducks series in the next round, where San Jose currently leads the series 3-0. Seen as the big reason for Vegas' success this season and in the playoffs so far is goaltender Marc-Andre Fleury, who was drafted by Vegas in the expansion draft after winning the Stanley Cup with the Penguins 3 times. Well, an explosive series, Anthony, and I hear you got something exploding as well. That's almost true, not exactly necessarily, but a Michigan gym patron looking for a Wi-Fi connection found one named remote detonator, prompting an evacuation and precautionary search of the facility by a bomb-sniffing dog in Saginaw, Michigan. Now, nothing was found, and everyone is okay. But that is all the time we have for you today, so come back tomorrow. We'll give you more news per usual. We'll see you soon.
The preceding program was produced in studios located in the Edgar L. Hardin Learning Resources Center by WNMU TV, Northern Michigan University Public Television.